Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program. And this vessel we have here is the Sun Seeker, headed out, well, to the sun, to see if I can't find carborundum here as well. I've been looking on the forums, and people are having trouble finding carborundum. There's supposed to be a band of carborundum around the sun, and people are having trouble actually finding it. So we are taking a shot at finding it ourselves. So let's save the game and see if this thing will actually survive the blistering heat of being incredibly close to the sun, because I'm not 100% sure it will. Let's just say I've had some issues with tests. But is everything good? Radiator active. Activate these radiators. Oh god, they're just boiling off even as we speak. But we are going to need the nuclear reactor to work if we actually do get some carborundum here. We have a little bit of fuel, but I don't know that it's going to do us any good. Can we detect any carborundum here? Carborundum surface, too high, ocean, unavailable, atmo, 0, exo, 0. Let's just deploy this collector. And open the carborundum collector. Oh look, nothing to harvest. Okay. Well, I don't think this is going to do us any good. CurbNet access. There's no surface, so... And I can't actually switch what it shows here. Deactivate scanner, that's fine. I'm not sure why I thought any of these things were going to work. Oh, look at that. Need to be in a stable polar orbit. I wonder if you can actually scan the sun like that. Alright, so let's point this Bussard collector directly at the sun. I said directly at the sun. And we'll see what we can do. Alright, everything's set. So let's turn... Well, we have 1 day till we get really close, so let's just, every couple of sets of kilometers, let's stop and take a look. This is a pretty arbitrary sort of search, but I'm not sure how else to do it. So we are coming in real quick now. So, from what I've read, there's a band, and I think that it's around 5-ish. I think it's like 4 or 5 million meters above the sun, but I'm not sure that anything can survive that close. So, I have no idea. Like, I feel like maybe I should go a little bit further down. I'm not sure I can actually change my periapsis that dramatically from here. Alright, looks like I can. See if it's down a little bit lower still. Okay. Hold on. Point back at the sun, please. I don't know if that actually helps anything, but makes me feel better that this whole thing is collecting the light of the sun and keeping this in shade. I'm not sure if that actually helps with cooling in any way. But things are warming up pretty dramatically here. Yeah, let's pin these. Pin this. Pin this. Yeah, I just have no idea what the actual, like, where this band would be. Unavailable, too high, nothing to harvest. Whoa, carbonite. Carbonite collector just became inactive as opposed to, oh lord, here we go. The carbonite collector is inactive as opposed to nothing to harvest. So it looks like we can collect carbonite here, but no carborundum. Well, maybe we get a little closer. But this thing is starting to cook, so I'm a little concerned. Nothing. Oh lord. Nothing but nothing. Okay. We're fine so long as we're time warping. Oh, the sun is close and hot. Nothing to harvest, nothing to harvest. Nothing to harvest. Oh! Oh no! Okay, so looks like my plan to get carborundum from Elu is the only good one. Alright, so I have done a tremendous amount of research about asteroids, so 3, 2, 1, launch. I've done a pretty thorough dive into the asteroid recycling technologies thread and the GitHub and things like that, and I did find some interesting things, such as, yes, in fact, that is the mod that is multiplying the amount of multiplying the density and the mass and the amount of material in every single asteroid by humongous amounts. So now what I am trying to do is sending up another big ridiculous rocket with the hope that I will be able to use this to intercept and begin utilizing immediately the asteroid and hopefully be able to get it into a stable orbit and then use it for all kinds of stuff. This is a big and kind of ridiculous launcher, but I don't anticipate, well, I guess I shouldn't say that now. I haven't actually tested this, so we're going to see how this thing goes. Alright, so this thing is built a little bit silly because I literally could not fit anything taller than this in the VAB, but that's why these tanks of fuel are stapled to the side here, because I couldn't get another tank vertically attached. Alright, these should be empty. Let's go ahead and kick those off. There we go, drop that mass, very nice. Now we've got this big thing here, which will be getting us a little bit further towards orbit anyways. Alright, so now we're just about to separate this main booster, which is using the big super rat-tight engine cluster, which was very nice. And now we have this 3.75 meter Rhino-fueled stage, which is hopefully going to take us the rest of the way. So let's fire that up and get our orbit up a little bit to 125. Alright, here we are in orbit with 2,654 meters per second of delta V remaining, and I am hopeful, not certain, but hopeful anyways, that that will be enough to meet the smaller pusher that I attached to the asteroid ARM-A. I'm not 100% sure that that's going to work, but I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to get out there in time to actually do something, because the one thing that I've noticed with all of my research on this is that there's a lot that you need to do. There's a lot of time that is going to need to pass as far as digging out and hollowing out this asteroid, and I'll talk more about that when we get a little bit closer. Now let me play with the maneuvers a little bit. Okay, I think we have a plan here, so let's go ahead and set up this burn. Looks like we're going to be able to get out there in something like 25, 27 days, and then we will be able to that'll give us another month, Kerbal month, before we actually hit Kerbin's Sphere of Influence, which should hopefully give us time to do everything we need to do as far as digging out resources and using the mass driver, which Rover Dude has described as somewhere in between the nuclear engine and an ion drive in terms of efficiency. Unfortunately, that also means it has very similarly incredibly long burns. All right, so we are just getting down, and here we go, making our burn out there. So while that is going on, let's take a quick look at what I am sending up, because it's going to be a little while to get out there. So we have the jaw, which is like the claw, but attaches to asteroids and boils down, kind of melts it from the inside using lasers, which is pretty awesome. I did have to go into the config file and tweak it so that the use specialist function, it was false, because when I was testing it, the core temperature just shot up to like 900K and then shut down, and then it didn't shut down, it just worked at about 1% efficiency. And the same thing with drills, which is a known bug, which is cool. So we have this. This is going to help us dig out rock. These drills are going to drill out ore specifically, and then we're going to be able to use both rock and ore to both as thrust with this mass driver, and also with the convertitron that I have here, so that we can actually make fuel, liquid fuel and oxidizer. And this guy here, which I will actually pop open here in just a second, is actually full of fuel hatches, which we can use to expand fuel tanks inside the asteroid, which will be very, very cool. All right, so there's going to be a lot of tweaking once again as we get in closer to this, especially because this is kind of a bigger, heavier thing. But first, let's go ahead and deploy. Kaboom! Yeah, so these are 3 little hatch pods, which I will use. One for ore, which I had to create with a config file that someone had put in the asteroid recycling technology thread. One for liquid fuel, one for oxidizer, so that we can make this asteroid into a massive fuel tank. Then you can see we have the mass driver, 2.5 meters, which is going to be able to make very slow progress as far as changing this thing's direction. And then 1.25 meter mass drivers, which we can use as RCS. I have some relay antennas and normal antennas, because this is going to act as a mothership for these little individual thingers right here. So let's get the radiators extended. Let's get the reactor started. We've got our antennas all pushed out there. I think we are all ready to go. We are going to be leaving some debris, which is unfortunate, but what do you do? This is a very weird thing that we're trying to do here, so. All right, so now let's tweak this, because we're going to meet out here. I just want to make sure. Okay, so we've got a node right outside of Kerbin's Sphere of Influence, well, a little ways outside, that we'll be using to get a little bit closer, and then we will just continue making burns like that to just get a little bit closer until we arrive. All right, and we should have just enough fuel to get there. So this was good. All right, so we are just about 46 minutes away from our first maneuver node. So I'm just going to warp a little bit up to that. And we are just going to be making a couple of correction burns as we approach this asteroid, and hopefully this thing will do everything I need it to do. I've done a little bit of testing with it, but I haven't really done everything exhaustively. In general, I don't simulate the entire mission in the background. What is going on with that? Oh, that's just Kerbin. Ha! I don't simulate the entire mission in the background. I want to kind of experience things a little bit organically with you guys. So I kind of leave a lot of this to what actually happens there, and I don't, save and reload and just try to have the best possible outcome happen. All right, so because it's more fun that way. It's a little bit more. This is supposed to be kind of a what do you call it? It's a simulation or a little look into the way that I play the game, like how I would be playing on my own. Okay, 1.1 is a good place to be, given that we are 22 days out. So let's go ahead and get that set up. We're gonna say, I don't know, an hour away, 79 minutes. All right. So, as I warp ahead to this, I know I could be out building stuff for my Duna mission, but I still have a year before that particular conjunction, so I'm not in a humongous hurry. And this is also going to be our shakeout test for how all of the resource production is working in the background. Yeah, so this is a kind of a shakeout test for all of our systems, our life support systems, and everything else. And hopefully, we won't wake up one day to having all the Kerbals be dead. Everything should be working in theory. All right, so we are now approaching ARM-A, which is attached to our first asteroid. I may need to send up a little bit more equipment. I have a feeling that this mass driver is not even going to be a little bit enough to do everything that I want it to do. But just because it takes so long, and I do not have the patience to actually just sit here for a 7-hour burn at any amount of time warp. All right, target relative velocity. Let's go ahead and physical time warp to get that around. And actually, it looks like I'm going to have a couple hundred meters per second of delta V left. So instead of having orbital debris, I could probably angle this this transfer stage so that it hits Kerbin. That'd be awesome. That way that would burn up and I wouldn't have to worry about any debris from that. That would be pretty neat, because I was not able to figure out exactly what I could do with that, but if I have a little bit of fuel left, that should be just fine. Alright, so we're using the big heavy Rhino engine to get us into good relative velocity. If I was clever, I probably should have actually found a way to attach this to the asteroid itself and use that as the pusher, rather than trying this mass driver stage. But the engineering on this thing is really goofy, and I found it very difficult to do precisely what I wanted to do with it, because there's a lot of things that we're trying to do at the same time, right? So it was pretty challenging to accomplish every single one of those objectives with a single ship. Oops, and I think we're flying by. I goofed. Shoom, there it goes. Bye, asteroid. Hurtling past at terrifying speeds, which just show you that that was only going by at about a 250 meter per second clip, and this thing was relative to me initially by about, what was it, 1200, 1300, something like that. No, slow down. Okay, hold on. This might be better if I actually just whip around, because I don't want to waste all my monopropellant doing this. He says, wasting all of his monopropellant doing this. Ooh. Well, that was weird. Going into physical time warp caused this thing to teleport away a little ways. I imagine that there's a lot less precision as to their relative positions at this distance, which is I think it's a known problem with KSP, kind of in general. Alright, this thing is not... Right, this thing is not actually balanced in any way for using RCS. I forgot. Woof. Okay, I need to not do that anymore. Did you see that? See this thing fly over here? Okay, so we are just going to very slowly and calmly approach. And in fact, I don't even need to get super duper close, because all of these individual pieces can fly over on their own. So let's do that. I'm going to F5, save my game. And we are going to, first things first, decouple. Well, let's kill our relative velocity at least. There we go. So now we are sitting 186 meters away, which is actually fine. That's actually a pretty good distance. So first things first, decouple the jaw ship. This is going to be the big vessel that is going to be doing the bulk of the work. We are going to target this thing's center of mass because this thing has the mass driver on it. So I may want to be very slow and careful and methodical about where exactly I put this. All right, I have identified a point on this vessel that I like a little bit better, on this asteroid that I like a little bit better, and it's this part right here, which based on what I'm seeing, like just kind of actually coming in and looking at it, this actually does look smooth and flat, and I could fit the jaw right in here, is my thought. Okay, I think I've got this just about lined up. So we are going to arm the jaw. Where did I go? Hello? Okay, that was incredibly strange. Like my whole view just blacked out there. And this thing was attached maybe, but the arm was actually closed? I don't know, that was very weird. Game, you are strange sometimes. So target the center of mass, point at the center of mass directly, please. And let me adjust where I am and the angle at which I am pointed here. Because like I said, I want to try to get this very precisely placed because I am going to be trying to push through the axis of this asteroid with the mass driver, which will be very slow, so I'm going to want to be able to leave that on long time warps. I like long time warps on the beach. Ka-chunk! Okay. So, yeah. That seems good. I believe we are, let me see if I control from here and I target the center of mass, I am not actually pointed at the center of mass. That's fantastic. But there's a way to fix that by going to free pivot and then very gently realizing you have two vessels attached and you should detach one. All right, you are useless, my friend. Get out of here. See ya. Okay. Target center of mass, beautiful. Control from here, beautiful. And we should be freely pivoting around on this as a pivot point. So I should theoretically be able to get this lined up perfectly and then lock the pivot. And then I will be pointed straight through the center of mass. And it's a little wiggly. All right, so what I can do, I can auto strut to the heaviest part. And then I'm gonna have this auto strut to the heaviest part, so that I should now be auto strutted to the asteroid, which is amazing. Yeah, that wiggle stopped. Boom, done. Cool. Yeah, and we look like we're pointed right through the center of mass on this thing, which is nice. The only trouble is now we want to get attached. First, we can actually deploy some drills. Pretty exciting stuff. Deploy, 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 deploy. Deploy. All right, so before I go attaching extra things, I'm not actually going to use the jaw mining laser, I don't think, because this thing is 6,580 tons. 5,395 of those tons are resources, so 82% of this is resources, which is fantastic. That seems like a very good ratio. I have an N of 1, so I have very little idea of what it should be. However, that seems good to me. So I should, in theory, be able to dig out 5,400 tons out of this thing and turn it into ore at some percentage rate. What I'm not sure about is, does the jaw dig out that 82% and reduce the amount of resources I can get by turning it into rock? That's what I'm wondering about. So what I think I'm just going to do then is start the asteroid harvestings. Asteroid harvesting. And that's 4 drills, 4 out of 4. And because I fixed their config files, they should go up to 500 Kelvin, I believe that's Kelvin, 500 Kelvin and stop and not go flying over, and actually be able to use the radiators to cool themselves down to their optimal temperature and get a lovely, lovely amount of, well, rock and ore. So we're digging out all of the good resources out of this, and I don't need any help from this thing. And something I can do at this point, well, before I do anything else, let's take care of some of this debris that we have out here. Because we have both liquid fuel and oxidizer hatches and an ore hatch. In my testing, I found that this ore hatch was the most problematic part. Oh man, this thing used up all of its monopropellant. Oh, this is going to be fun. Shoot. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. Well, let's save the game. Decouple. And then it's going to couple here because apparently fuel hatches are couplers as well. Release. And push our way out. Hopefully we can get down to this thing at a very reasonable amount, with just a very reasonable fuel expenditure. So let's target this thing's center of mass. Point at it, control from here. Okay, so this is, we're gonna have to be very careful. What I found is that the ore hatch is the most problematic one because there's 5,000 something tons of resource laden rock here, which turns into resources. The resources seem to be held at a point directly underneath the hatch, as far as KSP's determination of where the physics of that bit is. So it will dramatically change where the center of mass on this asteroid is. So ideally, I get this on the exact opposite end of the asteroid hunter module. Hopefully there's people not down in the comments already telling me, no, Justin, you're doing it wrong. Ka-chunk. There we go. So that's roughly on the opposite side. It's not completely lined up, but it should be closer, because in my testing, I ended up with it like over here or something, and it was just ridiculously off. But if I can have it at least roughly close, that would be good. Now you can only open tanks, internal tanks, in 50,000 unit increments, which is kind of amazing when I think about it, because ore tanks are very low unit count, I suppose. Like this big tank here is only 655 units. So when that fills up, like that's only 1,500 for this little space, but I can fill this thing up with a huge amount of ore. So just imagine if I slap a torch drive on that. But unfortunately, I am all out of time for this episode, so any further engineering, putting the hatches on, expanding tanks, and everything else is going to have to take place later on. I will see you guys in the next episode.